you. Good morning. Welcome to Unity Orlando. Our opening statement this morning is, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. All right, let's all affirm that together. I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. All right, let's all close our eyes and take a nice deep breath in. And let's affirm that together here in the silence. And so it is. And now if you'd like to stand, we'll sing our joy song this morning, Lightworkers Greeting Song. Chose a life to live. What if before we shared, we chose a life to give away a truth today, and hear the angels say, we all let love lead the way. We all let love lead the way. We all let love lead the way. What if before we could breathe, we chose to speak of love? What if before we could sing, we chose to be one of all the voices of an angel's choir, singing wisdom and our heart's desire, speaking absolute truth and love. Speak of absolute truth and love. Speak of absolute truth and love. What if we were God's love, living in God's love? What if the Christ in me has set my spirit free? Then I realize what I've hoped is true. The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you.
The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you.
The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you.
The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you.
The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you.
The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Good morning, Unity Orlando. How is everybody today? Good to see your beautiful faces. Welcome. Do we have any visitors today? Welcome. Thank you for raising your hand. We're glad you're spending your Sunday morning with us. I'm Susan Francis. I'm your platform person today. I just wanted to welcome you, and also online, welcome. I'm glad you're spending your morning with us. Just so you know, you can go to unityorlando.org's website and you can see ongoing events and classes. So please check that out if you want to be up to date. Also, just to let you know, this Friday, the Soul Group meets, and Bill Guggenheim, who's the author of Hello from Heaven, is our guest speaker. So join us if you're interested. And that begins about 11:30. So please join us if you can. Also, a reminder, our prayer chaplains pray every evening at 8 p.m. And we invite you to join us. So just set an alarm and we just, go inside and pray silently. Our theme is this month, I Love Mightily. So you can join us with that. Also, a reminder that chaplains are available to pray with you after service. So see one of us. I'm one. I see we're full up today. Yes. Bob and, oh my gosh, Ted. I know you, of course, and Ronnie's back there too. So we're full up with chaplains if you need help. And she's a Rev. She's in charge. Also, the annual membership meeting and potluck is next Sunday, January 29th. Following the 11 o'clock service, we invite you to come and also bring a dish to share. Reverend Bob's lesson this morning is sweeping away the cobwebs. But before I turn it back over to Brian, I have a little story to tell you. So, do you know how many members of the Tate family belong to our church? So we have old man Dick Tate, who wants to run everything. There's Uncle Rotate, who tries to change everything. And then there's their sister Agitate. She stirs up plenty of trouble with help from her husband Irritate. And whenever new projects are suggested, Hesitate and his wife Vegetate want to wait until next year. Then there's Aunt Imitate, and she wants our church to be like all the others. And then there's Devastate, who provides the voice of doom, while Potentate wants to be a big shot. But not all members of the family are bad. There's Brother Facilitate. He's quite helpful in church matters. And a delightful, happy member of the family is Miss Felicitate. Also, cousins Cogitate and Meditate always think things over and lend a helpful, steady hand. And of course, there's the black sheep of the family, Amputate, who has cut himself off completely from the church. And with that, turn it over to Brian.
Thank you, Susan. I'll try not to regurgitate that. All right. Thank you very little. The wheels are winding, yeah. So I don't really have a song that sweeps out cobwebs, but when I do play this song, it seems to sweep out cobwebs. So I thought I'd pick this one. It's called Spirit Wanders. I don't know what you're here to be. I don't know if you sing harmony. All I know is that you're gonna see God's light through me. I don't know if I'm wrong or right. All I know is that I live in the light. Let it shine long and bright. God's light through me. Spirit wandering very slow. Spirit winds blow through my soul. Spirit moves me. This I know. Spirit grows deep in my soul. I'm a channel, I'm a stream. I'm just a river flowing through a dream. I'm alive and I will survive with God's light through me. So I can see Spirit wandering very slow. Spirit winds blow through my soul. Spirit moves me, this I know. Spirit grows deep in my soul. Spirit wandering very slow. Spirit winds blow through my soul. Spirit moves me, this I know. Spirit grows deep in my soul.
Ah, that was wonderful. Yeah, I'd say that one works at about just any service. It'll work for today. That was beautiful. Hello, how is everyone out there? And how are all of you at home? It's good to have you with us. Well, usually I make small talk, but let's get right at it. Yes, the weather's gorgeous. If I don't talk about the weather, Bob wasn't up here. Okay. Sweeping away cobwebs. What are we talking about? Well, anybody who's been around Unity for a long time knows what I'm talking about. We're talking about denials. You know, when Unity first came out, now we're going back a long 130, 40 years, something like that at this point. In the early 1900s, a woman by the name of Emily Cady wrote a book called Lessons in Truth that became the basic of our basic Unity textbook, you might say, for a long time. I'm not sure whether we still are that committed, but we were until just a very short time ago. So let's say it's still our basic textbook. And in it, though the language is 100 years old, okay, she has 2 chapters. One is on denials, and the other is on affirmations. Now, denials doesn't get a lot of airtime because in this day and age, denial has taken on a negative connotation with psychology and so forth. But denial is the idea that you look securely at your negativity and say, that isn't me anymore. Okay? You say, it's not real. You look at your fear and you say, it's not real. There's a movie I will eventually in another talk quote more liberally from, but it's called After Earth, and it's about fear. The whole movie's about fear. And he says, fear is not real. This is Will Smith speaking, saying, fear is not real. Danger is very real, but fear is not real and will not enable you to meet danger any more efficiently. It isn't real. And so in a very real sense, what we are doing is taking a look at our limited personal perspective and saying, that's not the only way to see things, and that's not the way I choose to see my life anymore. If we can release our limited perspective, that perspective of the personal self, the human self, we can then embrace the perspective of the spiritual being that you are underneath all of this. There is a part of you that was before you ever came into this life and will be long after you leave. And it's not the part that has all your adamant opinions on politics at the moment. That's dust in the wind. That doesn't really matter. Not in the eternality of things. It may be important to you and right now, but your personal self. But in the end, it's not going to matter. And since you are both these beings, the outer human self and the inner spiritual self, we just got to make sure that the outer self doesn't run the entire show, or else we get cut off from all of the higher possibilities. By turning away from our human perspective that says, this can't happen, I'm always going to fail, this is going to happen. When we turn away from our negativity, we open up to the higher possibilities that are available to us through our spiritual self. Now, why the title? Unity has said for 100 years, when using denials, use them like sweeping away cobwebs, gently sweeping away cobwebs. Don't go after them like karate punching, okay? If your denial is, I am no longer sick, which is, of course, what started the entire Unity movement, right? Myrtle being able to deny her terminal illness and embrace perfect life inside of her from her soul. Unity was based on healing, right? If you are using a denial to say, I am not sick, of course your human self sees it. It still looks pretty sick. You know, I mean, that is the appearance. And that was my first talk this year, was in spite of appearances, right? Well, this is the in spite. When you say, I am sick, do you say, I am not sick? You know, I am not sick. If you put that much energy into it, the not gets lost. Because you've put the energy into the perspective. What you are doing is taking what your human self sees and you're gently pushing it off to the side and saying, I am not sick. And it's always followed with an affirmation. for God's life is strong within me. Now, this is where we put the energy, on God life, not on sick. That's what we're trying to release. Remember, he says, resist not evil. Don't wrestle with evil. Rise above it. Gently push it aside and declare the higher truths. That's the way denial works. Gently push it aside. Don't give it any more of your energy. You've probably given it a lot of energy so far. It's now time not to. Emily Cady writes in Lessons in Truth, almost hourly, little vexations and fears come up in your life. Meet each one with a denial. Calmly and coolly say within yourself, that's nothing at all. It cannot harm me or disturb me or make me unhappy. Do not fight it vigorously, but let your denial be the denial of any thought of its power over you. Now, she explains, all your happiness, all your health and power come from God. They flow in an unbroken stream from the fountainhead into the very center of your being and radiate from the center to the circumference, to the outer part of your being. When you acknowledge this constantly and deny that outside things can hinder your happiness or health or power, it helps you to realize health, power, and happiness. Denials may be spoken silently or audibly, but not in a manner to call forth antagonism. I think I covered it. Don't put your energy into it. Just silently look at it and turn away. If you read Ernest Holmes' Science of Mind, and he talks about his 7 steps or so many steps in spiritual treatment, a spiritual prayer treatment. The first one is actually to look at your problem and then turn away. To acknowledge, this is what I'm releasing. This is what I'm letting go. This isn't part of me anymore. Because otherwise you just kind of submerge it. If you're afraid to look at it, you just hung on to it real tightly. You look at it and you say, this has no power over me, and move on. Now we need to talk about what does have power in your life. The power of Spirit, the power of God moving into my life is amazing and is strong. If you're a Course in Miracles fan, one of the things I very much like about the workbook is that all the opening lessons are about unlearning what your human self believes. This is not the way I think it is. This is not as I perceive it. This is not. There's a whole lot of this is not in the opening workbook. And what are you doing? You're trying to turn away from the human perspective. So now you're ready to embrace the higher perspective. Otherwise, what your senses told you is king. And the physical world says it can only be this way. And there's no room yet for a spiritual perception that it can be so much greater. Now this year, many of us seem to be pulling a little of the turmoil and challenge of the past year of 2022 into these opening weeks of 2023. Okay? here we are. We made this big consciousness change. We said, this is a new year. I am going to live on a higher level this year. I'm going to keep my spiritual perspective. And then all of a sudden, life threw a bunch of things at us. So it's time to sweep away cobwebs. We got to sweep away the leftover negativity that's trying to reassert itself. Old fears, old failures, old challenges, old patterns, all trying to return. This is a process that in the earlier literature was known as chemicalization, a term you won't find taught a lot today. But I think it's important. Chemicalization is the idea that when we make a big consciousness change, when you step up to the plate and say, I am going to live on this higher level, you do well for a little while, and then all of a sudden, it's like life cuts loose and wants to test you and see if you're willing to fall back. It has always been, it's been described with a World War II analogy of the Battle of the Bulge. This is the Battle of the Bulge. You have made your consciousness change. It was almost over, and then boom, all that negativity came back and took one more surge. Can I gain control again? And as long as you stand firm through the turmoil that arises, you say turmoil that arises. Sometimes you end up getting sick. Sometimes more challenges arise. Turmoil, failure, all of that seems to, all of a sudden out of a blue, negativity takes one more really good shot at you. And in the end, it's just chemicalization. The idea that when you add an acid to a base, boom, it explodes first before it neutralizes and becomes harmless. Okay? That's where the term came from. But what it means is, you probably have one more little hill to climb before you prove you belong on this higher level. Your old patterns will take one more shot. Old consciousness comes back and says, remember me? I'm familiar. Can I have control again? And you literally have to hold firm and say, no, that is not me anymore. Maybe not with all that energy I just used. Because you want to sweep away cobwebs, right? You want to say, I am not this failure. I am not this person who's sick. I am not this. This is not real. It doesn't have to be the ultimate truth in my life. And that's what we mean by real. It does not control me. This fear does not control me. It does not belong in me, and it does not control me. Deny gently, then affirm reality, affirm the spiritual reality with energy and hold to it. This fear is not real. God is in charge of my life. That's where the energy is. In the new realm, the higher perspective. In Matthew 5:37, Jesus said, let your words be yes, yes, and no, no. For anything which adds to these is a deception. For those who claim they take the Bible literally, this is a problem. They need to have a two-word repertoire for their entire language. Let your words be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything else is pure, well, I can't say that one. Garbage. We'll do that. What's being said here? Be clear that when you speak, you're saying, this is what I want in my life. This has no place in my life. And any excuses, any trying to explain it away or this or that or the other, it's all garbage. All that counts is when you say, this is not part of my life anymore. This is. This is where I belong. This is my destiny. In 1 Peter 3:10, he who loves life and wants to see good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil and his lips that speak guile. Let your words be yes, yes, and no, no. Refrain from lamenting how terrible your situation is. Instead, say, this is not my ultimate reality. This is where I belong. But probably the most direct way that Jesus addressed this was in a parable he told in Luke 11, 24 through 26. When an unclean spirit has gone out of a man, say, oh, that's possession. No, it's any negative energy that you have let have control of your life. It can be anger, resentment, sadness, depression, any of this negativity that we allow to rule our lives. And we kick it out. I'm not angry anymore. This is where we can probably relate to it most directly. We say, I'm not angry anymore. Here's how it goes. When an unclean spirit has gone out of a man, it goes away and travels in places where there is no water to seek rest. When it finds it not, it says, I will return to my own house from whence I came. And if it should come and find it warm and well furnished, then it goes away and brings 7 other spirits worse than itself. They enter and dwell therein, and the end of the man becomes worse than the beginning. If you've banished negativity, and then you let it back in, it'll be harder to get rid of it the second time. You need to not let it back in. And part of the deal here is that we said, we cast the evil spirit out. We said, I'm not going to be angry anymore. I'm not going to live in this state of negativity. But if we don't firmly put something in its place, this is why a denial is always followed by an affirmation. If you do not put something firmly in its place, it's coming back, right? I'm not angry. We go, okay, I'm not angry. In a couple of minutes, I'm angry again. It came back. It was like it wandered around out there and then showed up again. And if you're just open and receptive, and you have not moved to a higher state of consciousness, the house is warm and well furnished, ready for it, welcoming. Come on back in anger. And now we're going, I couldn't get rid of it. So let's add fear to to the chart. I am afraid I couldn't get rid of it. Do you see how it gets amplified? So today, we need to look at the old patterns, the old dreams, and the old fears of 2022. Because if they're trying to return and take control of our lives, we need to take a stand and say, this is not my life anymore. If we're fighting that battle of the bulge, if suddenly we put ourselves on a positive path, things went really good for a week or two, and then all of a sudden, boom, we have a major challenge on our hands. We need to understand this is just the battle of the bulge. It's old consciousness trying to reassert itself, and we need to stand firm and say, sorry. Nah, it ain't me, babe. Am I showing my age here? So let's do that now. I want you to look at the old patterns that you left behind. Think burning bowl. You know, at every New Year's, we put in the burning bowl the old patterns we're letting go of. We say we're giving them to God, and we watch them burn into nothingness, which is what it is to release something from inside of you. We're going to release these old patterns and say, that isn't my life anymore. And that's what we're going to say. So what are those old patterns? Though some of them we wrote on that little thing we burned in the burning bowl. And if you weren't here, I know you know what you're trying to leave behind. This is not my life anymore. Together. This is not my life anymore. Old fears that have followed you into this year. They came back. You thought you had them under control, but now they're back. These fears are not a part of my life anymore. Think that. Think these fears are not a part of my life anymore. They don't belong in the new life. So these fears are not a part of my life anymore. Together. These fears are not a part of my life anymore. Well, here's a rough one. Old dreams that we don't need to carry any further. It's hard to let go of dreams we've held for a long time and said, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And life changes and we realize they aren't really appropriate anymore. I mean, for me, all I have to do is go out in my garage and I have dumped 98% of what I had, and I'm still looking at all these projects that I look at and I go, well, at my age, I'm sorry, in my new life, I'm not going to be doing this anymore. I need to get rid of this. But it holds such sentimental value. And that's our old dreams. And sometimes it's time to say, that isn't really where I want my life to go anymore. I'm ready for a new dream. Life has changed. That is no longer my life. Together. Life has changed. That is no longer my life. And even the old self. If you did this year right, you're not just trying to create a new life, you're trying to be a new self. To deserve to live in a better life, you have to be a better self. You got to be willing to step up and say, I'm going to live on a higher level this year. I'm going to be a little more soul, a little less personality. We're going to move down from 99 and 44 100% personality to just straight 99. And you have to be my age to know where that 99 and 44/100ths came from. That was Ivory Pure soap, right? 99 and 44/100% pure. I'm not saying you're going to suddenly become all soul. That's a tall order. But I am saying we can move that direction a little bit. So, your old self, that's just me. That is the dumbest statement in the world. It's not just you. You have changed every decade of your life. In fact, you've changed every year of your life, but it's real obvious if you go from decade to decade that you were a different person in different eras. You've been changing since you were a little kid, and you are changing more now. Your personality is not set in stone, and you're responsible for it. So maybe it's time to be a little higher version of yourself. But to do it, you're going to have to turn away from who you were and say, I am not who I was. I am someone new, and I live in a greater life. I am not who I was. I am someone new, and I live in a greater life. Together. I am not who I was. I am someone new, and I live in a greater life. Before I leave this subject, I'm going to give you the original 4 denials that Emily Cady put in her book. They're pretty heady, they're pretty abstract. I'm going to try to explain them a little bit, and then we're going to end by my kind of reinterpreting them and in a way that really fits what's going on right now, and us doing some denials and affirmations to close off with. But her first statement is, there is no evil. We go, yeah, I think there is. I can see it out there. Reality spiritually is defined as that which is eternal. Evil is an earth thing. It isn't part of your soul. For your soul, there is no evil, and evil has no power over it. It may seem to have power over your human self, but your soul has no power over it whatsoever. You cannot sell your soul to the devil. That was a stupid construct that human beings came up with that made the spiritual world seem more like our outer life. This soul was before you came into this life, is now, and will be long after you leave it, and it cannot be tarnished by how badly your personal self behaves. I am not encouraging you to behave badly. He who lives by the sword dies by the sword. Lives life alone. Oh well, we'll leave it at that. There is no evil. If you can put your perception of evil around you aside, you're now ready to know that God is moving through everything. There is no absence of life, substance, or intelligence anywhere. You said, oh, really? Check my bank account. What we're saying is your soul is directly connected to the source of everything. Wow. Are you hearing angelic music? Your soul is connected. And what we want to do is connect to the reality of the soul that knows God is your source and you will be taken care of, versus the reality the human self thinks it sees of, oh my God, I'm going to shrivel up and die, which is basically just ruled by fear. Pain, sickness, poverty, old age, and death cannot master me, for they are not real. They aren't eternal. They're part of this little earth thing we're doing at the moment. They are not part of your soul. And you are your soul, whether you realize it or not. That's the part of you that exits this life. That's the part of you that cannot be killed. Therefore, death is not real. Can your body fall away? Oh, yeah. We're well aware of that. But you can't be killed because you're a spiritual being, a child of God, a being of light underneath this human clothing that we wear. There is nothing in all the universe for me to fear, for greater is he that is within me than he that is in the world. The world sometimes seems amazingly threatening. And we need to push it aside and say, the spirit that is within me, the spirit that moves through my soul, is more powerful than anything the world can throw at me. This is temporary. That's eternal. So with that in mind, I want to end with some affirmations. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read them. They kind of embody the whole concept that was presented, that Emily Cady just presented, but they're a little more down to earth for us. Okay, right now, as we're going into this new year and trying to set our new consciousness and leave the old behind. So here we go. Each one will be a denial followed by an affirmation, because that's how it works. Number one, the evil I see around me has no power over me. God is in charge of my life and all is well. Together, the evil I see around me has no power over me. God is in charge of my life and all is well. All is well, in spite of appearances. Number two, the difficulties of last year do not follow me into this year. This is a new year where goodness fills my life. Together, the difficulties of last year do not follow me into this year. This is a new year where goodness fills my life. I am not limited by my past. I leave the past behind and rise into a wonderful new experience. Together, I am not limited by my past. I leave the past behind and rise into a wonderful new experience. Body challenges no longer follow me into my new cycle. God's healing life is moving in me now, and opportunities for healing will present themselves throughout the year ahead. Together, body challenges no longer follow me into my new cycle. God's healing life is moving in me now, and opportunities for healing will present themselves throughout the year ahead. Lack no longer controls my life. This is the year I experience God's abundance more fully. Together, lack no longer controls my life. This is the year I experience God's abundance more fully. Fear no longer has a home in my life. God is in charge, and I know I will be led to my highest good. Together, fear no longer has a home in my life. God is in charge, and I know I will be led to my highest good. And one more, it's an adaptation of what Joseph in Egypt said. Even if the world means it for evil, God means it for good. Together, even if the world means it for evil, God means it for good. Sweeping cobwebs away from our life. We go forth now ready to live that new experience on a higher level. To see that the challenges that arise in the beginning here, they're just old consciousness taking one more shot at us. And we're better than that. Because that which is in me is greater than that which is in the world. Let's close our eyes. We take a deep breath and sigh it out. And here within, go into your inner quiet place. Move into your heart. For the heart is the altar, where we sit in God's presence. And feel that presence surrounding, enfolding, loving you. And from here within, cradled in the arms of Spirit, look out at your outer life. And consciously turn away from fear. There's nothing to fear. No matter how threatening it may appear, there's nothing to fear, for God is in charge. Turn away from the limits of the past. Who I was did not rule who I am. I let the past go. And I'm ready to go forward in a new and higher way in this life. Turn away from the difficulties that threaten you in outer life. God will show me my way through this, and I will travel through it to higher ground. Without a doubt. And I know it all because God is in charge of my life. And all is well. Feel that presence surrounding, enfolding you. Feel Spirit moving through all the world around you. Realize God is in charge of my life. And all is well. Now feel the white light of the Holy Spirit flowing through you. sweeping away those little pockets of darkness, sweeping through your consciousness, your thoughts, your feelings, and your body, carrying away the darkness. And you are flooded with light. This moment, as Paul said, put on the armor of light. And feel the radiance of the being that is that being of light that lives within you, your soul. I am a radiant being of light. I am a child of God. I am an eternal spiritual being, temporarily going through this human experience. But even as I go through this human experience, I know that which is in me is greater than that which is in the world. Father, we turn away from the past negativity that has controlled our life. The little things, the big things, we turn away from it all. We allow thy Holy Spirit to cleanse us fully. We recognize, God, you are in charge of our life. And we are ready to embrace a higher version of ourselves, a higher path to walk. Father, may thy wonderful will for good be fulfilled in each of our lives throughout the year ahead. God, thy will be done through us. Amen. And as the usher will come forward, we'll prepare for our offering. For those of you at home, by now I'm sure you know this if you watch every week, but for the new people, the way you give your offering is at the end of service, you go to the home page of the website, you hit the Donate Now button, and you can either use a credit card or PayPal, or you can pull our address off of the website and send us a check. And you can also call the office and arrange for regular offerings if that's more convenient for you. In either case, your offerings and yours are what keeps us going, and we are deeply appreciative. So here we go. We're going to bless our offering with love and joy, because we know as we give in love and joy, so does the universe return to us in love and joy. Together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. Thank you, God. Amen. It's all yours.
Thank you, Reverend Bob. And I originally wrote this song as a love song to music, but I had to change the word because it was Sweet Sonic, and nobody got that. So I called it Sweet Spirit. It worked out pretty good. You're just like me sometimes, acting on the dream inside, stirring up thoughts that hide my shiny soul. When good thoughts cross my mind, my heart gets warm inside. And when our dreams collide, making us whole, sweet spirit, we are one. Even though we've only begun, this life is more than come. This life in love, from since the beginning of time, I felt you on my mind, never minding trying to hide my shiny soul. Now I feel peace inside, giving hope to humankind. All the love that's left behind is making us whole. Sweet spirit, we are one. Even though we've only begun, this life has shown there's more to come. This life in love, this life in love. Sweet spirit, we are one. Even though we've only begun, this life has shown there's more to come. This life in love, this life in love. Sweet spirit, we are one. Even though we've only begun, this life has shown there's more to come. This life in love, this life in love. Sweet spirit, we are one. Even though we've only begun, this life has shown there's more to come. This life in love, this life in love. This life in love, this life in love, this life in love.
Oh, funny thing about machinery, you have to turn it on. I'd say that was perfect. Thank you. Thank all of you. Ah, yes, the music, as I've said before, is my favorite part of the service because I get to listen. Whether you're watching from home or sitting here in person, thank you for being my Unity family. Next Sunday, I'll be speaking on gaining altitude. And next Sunday, you told them about it, right? The annual meeting. It's our annual meeting in potluck after the 11 a.m. service. Okay? Do you have to be a member to be there? No. We only give voting things to the people who are members, but we'd love to have you come and be part of it. Besides, the food's good whether you're a member or not. Okay, let's all rise and end our service by blessing the entire world with our prayer of protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. God bless you all. Have a wonderful